This is a video from the topic B3, looking at infection and response, and we're looking at the communicable diseases, and we refer to the communicable diseases as infectious diseases, those that are contagious, that can be passed from one person to another. And we're going to look at viral diseases, bacterial diseases, fungal diseases, and finally Protist diseases. And there are 7 diseases that we need to know the specific details for, how they're transmitted, symptoms, preventative measures, cures, those sorts of things. Let's start with the measles virus. Okay, so this is a virus. Symptoms include fever and a red skin rash. It's passed on through airborne droplets. Okay, so someone might sneeze in the air, somebody else breathes in those particles, and it's passed on to them. It can be very serious. It can be fatal, meaning it can take a person's life, and young children are usually vaccinated. Then we go on to the HIV virus, human immunodeficiency virus, but we can just remember it as HIV. Initially starts off with flu-like symptoms. The virus enters the lymph nodes. More importantly to remember, it attacks the immune system. As a result, to try and control the development of HIV, the patient is given antiretroviral drugs. Okay, it's an important one to remember, that one, antiretroviral drugs. In late stage HIV, which is known as AIDS, the body's immune system is so damaged that it can't fight off simple infections. The next slide is just out of interest, really, saying how it can be passed on and how it's not transmitted. So it can be passed on with unprotected sex, passed from mother to baby, although there are ways now of preventing that from happening, sharing injecting needles and contaminated blood transfusions. HIV is not passed on by insect bites, sitting on toilet seats, kissing, sharing cutlery or touching. The third virus we're going to look at is tobacco mosaic virus. This one affects plants. It gives this kind of mottled mosaic appearance to the leaf. It's taken away some of that green colour from the chlorophyll of the leaf. So if there's less green, less chlorophyll, because it's got this mottled appearance, then there'll be a reduced rate of photosynthesis and therefore reduced growth. Infected plants must be destroyed, so it could be a case of taking off the leaves and destroying those leaves. It could be that the entire plant needs to be destroyed, burned and buried, okay, to stop the spread of the virus. So those are our 3 viruses. Let's move on to our fungal disease, rose black spot. Okay, quite similar to tobacco mosaic virus in that it reduces the rate of photosynthesis, so therefore reduces the growth of the plant. We can see here the black or purple spots on the leaves. The leaves then often turn yellow, as you can also see in this picture, and they drop early, so the leaves fall off. This one's spread by water or wind, so it could easily infect lots of plants in a particular area. This one though, we can remove and destroy the affected leaves, but it is actually possible to treat using a fungicide. Fungicides treat or destroy the fungal spores. Moving on to a bacteria, this one is Salmonella. And this one we know as food poisoning from unhygienic conditions. This could be that someone's prepared some raw chicken on a chopping board and then they've made a salad on the same chopping board, and then you eat the salad and it passes the salmonella to you. Unhygienic doesn't necessarily mean that it's dirty, it just means that they haven't used separate preparation areas for raw and cooked food, or food that's not going to be cooked at all. In the UK, we try and protect our chickens, which we call poultry, by vaccinating them against salmonella to reduce the spread of the salmonella. So we don't tend to get food poisoning from salmonella in this country, but you might get it if you go on holiday. Symptoms include fever, abdominal cramps, vomiting, diarrhoea, and that's caused by the bacteria and the toxins that they create. Okay, next we're looking at gonorrhea. And gonorrhea is also a bacteria. This is a sexually transmitted disease, and you do have to remember both symptoms for this, which is a thick yellow or green discharge from the vagina or penis and pain when urinating. It's caused by bacteria. It's easily treated using antibiotics such as penicillin. However, resistant strains have appeared that make it more difficult to treat. Spread by sexual contact, that's what I mean by sexually transmitted disease, and it's controlled using antibiotics. That's the way we treat it, and we can prevent it by using a barrier method of contraception, for example a condom. Our final disease to talk about is the protist, malaria. It has a life cycle that includes the mosquito, and the mosquito we refer to as a vector. It's able to move the malaria from one place to another. Okay, you get fever, can be fatal, and we try and prevent the spread by destroying the breeding grounds where the mosquitoes live. They like to live around stagnant water. Okay, that means ponds, small areas of water where the water doesn't move. So if we can block in those ponds, get rid of the areas where they breed, then there's less mosquitoes in the area. And we also use mosquito nets and repellent. Let's look at the malaria life cycle. Okay, so like I said, it's a protist. Okay, and it's transported by the vector, the mosquito. So it's inside the mosquito. The mosquito bites a human and passes the malaria parasite, the protist, through the salivary glands into the person, and then the human then becomes the host of that parasite. The malaria protist, the parasite, then makes a beeline for the liver cells. In the liver cells of the human, it multiplies rapidly, but it can actually stay there dormant, not affecting the person for quite a number of years. Eventually, those malaria parasites, the protists, will explode out of the liver cell, run through the blood, and then infect the red blood cells. Again, they multiply in the red blood cells, and then they burst out of those as well. This will cause the fever. Okay, and then when the mosquito feeds on another human host, some of that blood from one person can be transmitted into the other person, passing that malaria on and on to different people. When the mosquito has its next meal, the parasite then passes on to the next person. So how can we break that cycle? By killing the mosquitoes or preventing them from breeding. I mentioned that already. Taking measures to prevent getting bitten, using repellent, using mosquito nets. Before you go away to a place that has malaria, you can take anti-malarial medicines, and you take them for a short time when you're home, and that stops the development of the protist, sometimes we say protozoa, from developing. And also educating people. That could be as simple as, I know I'm going to go on holiday, I'll go to the nurse, I'll have a conversation about what kind of diseases are in the area that I'm going to. The nurse will educate me on what injections I might need to take, or what malarial tablets I might need to take. There's no injection for malaria. So that's some education. But also in the places where there's the malaria, educating the local people about covering up at night time, about using nets, using sprays, can help the prevention of and the spread of malaria. Let's look at everything as a summary then. So these are our 7 diseases. We've got in red the viruses, in purple the rose black spot is the fungi, the blue is the bacteria, and the green is the protist. So we said that the measles virus is serious, can be fatal, spread by inhalation of droplets. We've got the fever and the red rash, and young children are vaccinated. HIV, another virus, initially causes flu-like symptoms. The virus attacks the immune system. It's controlled by antiretroviral drugs. Late stage HIV, known as AIDS, is when the body's immune system can no longer fight off infections. Tobacco mosaic virus, TMV, it's a widespread plant pathogen, affects many plants including tomatoes. We get this mosaic pattern on the leaves which reduces the rate of photosynthesis and therefore the growth of the plant, and the infected plants must be destroyed. Rose black spot, purple or black spots on the leaves. They often turn yellow and drop early. Affects the growth of the plant as the photosynthesis is reduced, just like the TMV. This one's spread by water and wind, treated using fungicides or destroying the infected leaves. Then move on to our two bacterias. So we've got Salmonella, which was the food poisoning from unhygienic conditions. We try and prevent it in this country by vaccinating the chickens to prevent the spread of the bacteria. Symptoms include fever, abdominal cramps, vomiting and diarrhoea. The next bacteria is gonorrhea. This was our sexually transmitted disease. Thick yellow or green discharge from the vagina or penis. Pain when urinating. Easily treated with antibiotics, although we've got these resistant strains. But preventative measure, prevention is always better than a cure, so prevent it with a barrier method of contraception, such as a condom. And the final summary, which was the Protist, malaria, has a life cycle that includes the mosquito. We called that the vector. We get recurring episodes of fever, and it can be fatal. It's controlled by preventing the spread of the vectors, the mosquitoes, not allowing them to breed by destroying their breeding grounds, using nets and repellent. Anti-malarial medicines can be taken, and educating people about malaria and how to prevent the infection. Hope you found that useful. Thank you.